Good evening. We're here for our regular November 11th meeting of the Planning Commission, and we'll start with our call to order, our roll call.
All right, Stiles.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Zaremski.
Here.
DeBoer Leonard.
Here.
Osterholm.
Here.
Also present is Planning and Zoning Administrator Meg Leatherman, Solicitor Amy Blankenship, and I think all we got from the village.
Okay, then next we will look at our agenda. And did we have a new agenda page, or is it the same? Yes, we do have a new agenda
We
page.
do.
But I'm not sure if there's anything.
It is updating your communications. That was the only change.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so, anyone have any changes or anything for the agenda? If not, we will review the minutes. Does anyone have any corrections, changes, additions to the minutes?
I had one question.
Okay,
Where was it? Oh, yeah. It was the TGL case that came by.
what page?
Page 2, roughly in the middle, when it says there are several transient guest lodge units operating, blah, 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 blah.
Yes,
It said the closest one to the subject property was 128 feet away. I thought it was a little more. Is that an accurate number?
That is accurate,
Okay,
unless Meg is wrong,
okay.
which I tend to think she's not.
I was
usually,
about
so-
to say, I doubt she's right. Okay, 128. Just wanted to check that.
and you were not at that meeting either.
Oh, you're correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions, changes, corrections?
Nope.
If not, I move approval of the minutes. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Third.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll go on then to our communications. We have a lot of communications, and I think that we've tried to look at them. Some have just come in recently. I believe all of them have to do with this development, the Spring Meadows third and fourth phases. I counted at least 8 of them who want to have a separate HOA for phases 1 and 2. And then there are other objections about for traffic. Various things. There is one about the Airbnb, John Search, it was at the last
Yeah,
meeting.
the last 3 are a little different topics.
Yes, and then Matt Braska has one about reducing zoning regulations. Chris Bongiorno was the Active Transportation Committee recommendation, and that can be, I think, discussed when we're going on. And maybe, Gary, you would like to do that when we come to that part.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have a lot of letters that came in. Do we have a report from the Active Transportation Committee?
Yeah, I have a few quick items. 2 main things are in process, well, one in process at the Active Transport team. An updated Active Transport plan is in process and will be submitted by December 1st. The current plan, excuse me, hoarse today, dates back to 2018 and 2019. Also, the Active Transport team spent time reviewing the Spring Meadows Extension preliminary plan, which is on the agenda today. Several recommendations were identified to improve both pedestrian and bicycle transportation. The Active Transport suggestions have been incorporated in the staff recommendations, and they're also identified in this letter from Chris, which was our formal reply from the team. The one last thing I wanted to just mention that is sort of different, but boy, I can't resist because it's admirable. Clearing sidewalks for accessibility has been quite successful. There are only 5 remaining locations needing work relative to cleaning access, relative to the 150 that were the case when we started the project. So there's a team of people have been working on making the sidewalks more accessible, and they've done an amazing job. So I just wanted to highlight that in this group. And that's all I got.
Great, thank you very much, Gary. Okay, Gavin, do you have a report from the council?
Yeah, So on September the 15th, the council heard a first reading of the ordinance accepting annexation of 28.3 acres, the property on which the preliminary plat you will hear tonight is to be located. And then the annexation was passed on October the 6th. We did the first reads of the text amendments recommended to council that were also heard on the 6th. And then on the 20th, we passed all but one of the text amendments that were sent to council by the planning commission, the one being the TGL distance one. So all the things that we talked about here before. And then Anthony Salmonson was voted on to our body as an alternate at the last meeting as well. And then at this, was that on the 20th? That was on the 3rd, right? Was that the 20th?
It was 20th.
Okay, the 20th. And then nothing relevant to this body on the 3rd.
Okay, thank you, Gavin. Okay, we've got a lot to, so we will begin with, do you want me to swear them in before we do general citizens' comments? Should I swear them in?
They don't need to be, but there's no real need.
Okay. Okay, we're at the point in our agenda where we have general citizens' comments. That means if you want to talk about something that is not on our agenda, you come and speak now. I'm assuming a lot of you want to talk about what's on our agenda. So, but if there's anybody who has a general comment you want to come forward, feel free to. Okay, then we'll move on, and we're going to be having our first public hearing, but I think before I do this, I want to swear in anybody who thinks that they may be coming up and talking to us, and it's a real easy process. If you will all, anyone who's going to come up and speak, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in matters before this board? And you say, I do. I'm hoping that's everyone. And then when you come up to speak, if you just confirm that you've been sworn in. Thank you.
And state your name.
Yes, of course, state your name, but then if you also affirm that you are been sworn in. Okay, so we're going to start with the first one, the right-of-way vacation by John Hudson, the owner of 212 West Whiteman, Lot 182, and they're asking for a vacation of an unused alley located along the east property line.
Yes, all right. Meg Leatherman, Planning and Economic Development Director. And I'll do an introduction and then turn it over to the applicant.
Okay.
So yes, this is a right-of-way vacation application requesting vacation of an alley near Phillips and West Whiteman. John Hudson is the property owner. He's here tonight. The property is zoned RB, so medium density residential. Adjoining property owners were mailed a notice on October 30th, 2025. A notice was published in the paper October 31st, 2025, and a staff report was prepared that outlines the applicable village code, which is provided to the Planning Commission and posted on our website on November 7th. So just some housekeeping stuff I like to do here on the record. So again, this is a proposal vacating a portion of existing right-of-way for an alley that has not functioned as an alley since before 1960s, as far as I can tell. So what has happened is John would like to submit a replat application to adjust some of the uneven lot lines there with his property owner. They've been working on that. But when the surveyor did the research, they found that the alley was never officially vacated through this process and approved by village council. And so I did some digging too myself and found that it was on recorded deeds referenced as being vacated from back as far as 1980, and referring that it had been vacated for at least 20 years. So that it basically a deed was recorded vacating it, but then everyone went to council to do the proper paperwork. So we're here tonight just to basically recognize something that's been in place for several decades, but our surveyor, like they are very detailed, won't do the replat until we officially recognize it as vacated. So he can give you more history and reason as to why that, he wants to do the replat, but that's not in consideration tonight. Tonight, it's just the alley vacation. There is a house overlapping into the right-of-way. I did have our Public Works Director review it, and he has kind of come up with the new standard that we don't do alley vacations anymore, but was okay with this one, accepted this one because of the history of it being vacated in practice for so many years. So has authorized approval of vacating it. And so I'll just go ahead and stand for any questions if you have any.
Anyone have questions?
Just, so the alley, I looked on the GIS and I didn't see, so the alley is right in this
Yeah.
portion there?
So if you could flip to the next, yeah, right there, I have a little arrow. So
Okay.
basically 7.5 feet on each side is technically right-of-way. Of that line, that is the turquoise line on the, I guess, right side there, which is the east. If you can see like below it where the alley still exists, if you would basically run that up, that is where the alley technically really is, according to the survey records and the law when it comes to
So that-
officially vacating right-of-way.
So the alley is on their property? It wasn't like separate property owned by the village?
No.
It's on, it's on the homeowner's property?
No. The whole other way around. A home got built on what was actually part.
Excuse me, if you could
Yeah,
let them
yeah, let
finish.
them go.
We'll
Then
get
you
a
can
minute.
come up.
No, wait till.
I do.
But
John
let these
Hudson.
guys finish first. Are you,
Well, I want to
Are you done?
clarify that.
yeah.
Are you guys
They'll
okay
ask.
if he, I'm sorry, Stephen, I don't think I could answer that question.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe John could answer it, the owner, and better. I tried to do a good job, but
You did a good
I thought
job.
it was a home, but he's saying it's, let's see, I'm obviously off because I thought that was a residence there.
It's a very small garage, if that. It's a shed. And somebody built it there because they didn't know exactly where the lot line was.
Okay. On our thing, it says house, so we're just,
Well, where your finger is,
Right.
that's, okay, down.
house. Anyhow, it doesn't matter what it is. It's there. I'm just, so the piece of land, the thing that the village has I guess, a right-of-way up on this little flag lot piece there, and you want to undo that. Is that's what we're talking about?
That's the,
And the
Vacated.
actual like highlighted lot lines there are technically not accurate, which is part of the confusion.
Okay,
This here is the vacated alleyway
okay.
from years ago. This above is the part that's unvacated.
So, and that's what confused me, because I can see where the vacated alleys are on the, the county records, and I didn't see anything for this, and I was,
Yeah.
okay, so it seems to have been vacated
Unofficial.
unofficially.
Functionally.
Okay. And now we're catching up the
Yeah.
official stuff,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
does anyone else have any questions for Meg? Okay, if not, then John, do you want to talk?
Well, she's stated pretty much everything. The reason this came up is Louise divided this lot in half, Louise Odiarn, and she did it with sort of a zigzag. And she gave us a very narrow driveway. So because of parking on the driveway, and I'm 80, and so how long am I going to last? The next person will need to have it surveyed anyway. And so I want to leave it to my sister in good standing. So I want to get the alley vacated, get the driveway built or established as wide as it can be, and trade Chris this triangular space in the middle of the lot for the added footage of the driveway. He's trading me, I think it's 8 or 10 feet of his property for the triangle. So
But in order to do that, you had to get the
surveyed.
thing vacated first.
I didn't have to get the alley vacated first, but I did have to survey it all first.
Okay.
And the alley came up as unvacated,
Got
so
it.
it makes sense to complete that.
Okay.
And, well, okay, that's basically it.
I guess I would just add if I can.
Yes.
I'm sorry, is that okay?
Yes.
He did submit a petition with signatures from the adjoining property owners on the east side that it also in their deeds referenced this vacated alley that hasn't really been through the official process.
Yes.
So I checked that, and
Yeah.
so it will clean it up for them too.
Yeah, they all three signed on it.
Yeah.
Chris signed my application for replot, and so everybody's in agreement. So
Any questions for John while he's up here? Okay, thank you, John.
thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, if there's not any other questions, do we have a motion?
I'll make a,
You need to open a
A
public hearing,
public
please.
hearing, thank you, I'm sorry.
What will we do?
Public hearing, I'm opening the public hearing. Does anybody want to come
needs
forward and speak about this? Feel free to state your name and tell us that you've been sworn in. Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. Scott, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the vacancy of the alleyway.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, who seconded? Is that Gary?
Gary second.
He was on it. Okay. You ready?
Yes, we're ready.
All right. Osterholm,
Yes.
Zaremski,
Yes.
DeVore Leonard,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Stiles.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so now, does it have to go to council?
It does.
Yeah.
Okay, so it will go to council for their approval, but that should be easy.
So that will be, it's 2-read ordinance, December 1 and 15.
Great.
I don't know, Susan.
It may not be easy.
It's, you never know.
You never
Never
know.
know.
Can't speak for them, right?
That's true. Okay, then we are ready to move on to our next public hearing of business. Is a preliminary plat, major subdivision, DDC management on behalf of SCF Land Holdings has submitted a major subdivision preliminary plat application at 4359 East Enon Road on 28.3 acres for a total of 190 dwelling units and 2.8 acres of open space to be built in multiple phases. I'm assuming it's to be built in 2 phases, since it's 3 and 4. So Meg, do you want to talk about it?
Sure. Thank you. Again, Meg Leatherman. This was an application submitted by DDC Management. The owner is CF Land Holdings, who has authorized submittal of the application. The property was recently annexed, as you're all aware, and it comes in RC automatically when property is annexed into the village. RC is high-density residential. And just some housekeeping here. Adjoining property owners will mail the notice on October 30th, 2025. A notice was published in the paper, and signs were posted on the property on October 31st, 2025. A staff report was prepared that outlines applicable village code, which provided to the Planning Commission and posted on our website on November 7th. We received several letters from the public over the last few days, and we have been sharing those with the Planning Commission, and it was included in the initial packet. It wasn't included in the initial packet. We sent it to them after, and I think now you have a compiled group of all of them in front of you tonight. And this does include quite a bit of detail, so I'm going to touch on some of the high points, and then obviously, if you have questions, you can ask me, and I'll defer to the applicant on things that I'm not 100% sure of. And then I also have some corrections that I need to make, so I'll just go through my notes here. So yes, the subdivision is 28.3 acres of land, zoned RC, which allows a density of 14 dwelling units an acre.
So, okay, so can I just, the technicality about this, so the 14 dwelling units per acre, that includes the land that ends up being the open space land and the land that's the roads, right? That's how we calculate that with all of the whole thing. So, but if like the roads were somehow already there, you wouldn't include the roads in the calculation, right? If if that pond that they're gonna build was already there and the roads were already there, you would have less, is that, or I'm curious, like.
Sure, yeah, we can look at the definitions.
Okay, but the way we're doing it is with including the roads, you don't subtract out all
I
of
did
that
not,
stuff?
I did not, so I haven't been subtracting it out.
Okay.
So with the proposal of 190 dwelling units with 28.3 acres, I just divided it.
Okay.
190 and 28.3 and got 6.7 dwelling units per acre. And that's how I've been doing it the last 2 years too, so.
Yes, you have.
Yeah,
Okay.
just so that helps with context.
Consistent.
Okay.
Yeah. So with 100, did I say 190? Yeah, 190. 120 of the units will be the attached single-family product type, and that's represented on the plat, on the screen here, on the larger lots closer to East Enon. So those are 12 templexes of attached single-family products that the plan is to be condos, condo those. I don't think I included that here, but I think any kind of additional information about that, the applicant can share with you. So it's not technically part of the review. The review is really about the use, which is attached single-family dwelling, and that is a permitted outright use in this zone. And then the other type of use is the single-family detached, and that's the other 70 lots that are part of the proposal, more similar to what you saw with the phases 1 and 2 Spring Meadows, so further down to, I don't know if that's oriented north-south, I don't think so. North, south, east.
North is to the right.
Yeah, okay, yeah. The east side is the single-family detached. So in the notice, I put the total amount of open space as 2.8, but that is actually for Phase 1. The total provided in the open space areas, in 4 different open space areas, is 4.384 public open space.
What was it again?
And this, there are 2 planned phases, but the preliminary plat is actually a consideration of the whole thing, so all phases. So in the end, it really doesn't matter so much for this review.
So what was the
5.38.
5.384? Okay, and that's the open space? Okay, and that
Including
includes,
the buffer areas.
including the buffer, and that includes in that area that is sort of like a figure 8 or something. Is that open space where I guess they have the parking around it?
Yes, I view that as public
Okay.
open space. Public could use that.
Okay.
But the parking spots are not open space?
Correct, those are parking spots, yeah.
Okay.
So since we're looking at that section, I'll highlight that the figure 8 is a private drive as a part of this proposal. And I did have the Miami Township Fire and Rescue review the whole proposal, and they had no concerns with this except for this area. They requested that there be no on-street parking in this private drive area, specifically like where they combine, they meet up, the figure 8 in the center there. I don't know how to word that. Making sure that a fire truck could get through in case of an emergency, or they would just basically, fire trucks can usually get through anyways, but it would just be more damage to like a car that was there because they would just plow through it or
So
whatever.
would they allow on-street parking in the other area?
I had put it in a condition of approval as no on-street parking, but I had not spoken to the applicant about how much that would restrict them. I thought it would just be easier than having to designate like the certain feet from the intersection. I guess that's an intersection.
Are you still talking about that figure 8 area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is a consideration. I did put as a condition of approval that the entire private drive not have on-street parking.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what difference does it make whether it's a private drive or a
Public.
a village street?
I think it has to do with the width and the maintenance of it will be private maintenance.
So like for the maintenance and for snow removal, they'll have to do their own snow removal.
That's, well, yeah.
Which will be part of the condo association that they'll have to form. Again, they can elaborate on that a little bit more. Let me just touch on a couple of key points. I did put a requirement for a landscape plan, because that is one of our code requirements, is a landscape plan, and that didn't get submitted with the initial submittal. And highlighted some things to focus on in the landscape plan as a condition of approval. The traffic study was conducted by the applicant and reviewed by Choice One. Choice One didn't have any fundamental concerns. They just asked for one additional clarification. So I included that as a condition of approval as well, that they addressed that one comment for the traffic study.
So just for clarification for people here, Choice One
Oh, I'm
is
sorry, thank
hired
you.
by the village,
Choice One's our civil engineer.
and they have reviewed it for us.
Yes,
Okay, and we can have questions for them later.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Choice One, it's Brad, who's here tonight. He's, the part of my job as a planner is coordinating all the different people who review this and getting everyone on the same page. So, yeah, he's here. The fire department was the other one. And then obviously our own public works team has reviewed this as well. And they don't have any additional comments beyond what Choice One has provided comments on. So, and overall, with everything, and I'll highlight it again more later, but Choice One is in support of moving the preliminary plat forward with some additional information that they've requested in some of the studies, but they don't think it's going to materially affect the layout and design of the preliminary plat, so they're fine with it moving forward, but still want some adjustment and additional information before the construction starts. So anyways, so relating to the traffic study, I will highlight that there is going to be additional trips generated from the project. I guess that's kind of intuitive. The total amount that they projected were 1,675 daily trips. But according to the general standards and best practices, mainly also ODOT standards, or the Oregon, Ohio Department of Transportation standards, improvements are not warranted on any of the nearby intersections. Because all of the intersections will still operate at a level of service C or above, and actually majority of them operate at a level of service B or above. I mean, it's basically a number of trips that have to wait at an intersection or trigger certain improvements to occur at an intersection. They're not hitting that threshold. And the traffic study did look at multiple different locations. And again, I'm speaking, civil engineers here can probably articulate that much clearer and better in more detail than I can, so just highlighting it. The other things that Choice One looked at was the stormwater plan, and the construction plans have been submitted and reviewed. And they're comfortable with moving forward the preliminary plat should the planning commission be. One of the parking counts, there's an error in my staff report on page 10. I put that the total parking spaces off-street in the multifamily area was 247. That's not accurate. The total off-street parking spaces is 222. And the requirement for off-street parking is 2 per dwelling unit for the multifamily.
What's the actual number?
222.
Okay.
And our code requires 2 per unit.
240.
Correct.
Yes.
So it would be, so they're short, they're
A
less than
little
the
short,
240.
yes. Part of the consideration is if you're okay with that. If not, we could ask them to put more parking if they
Yeah.
want to. Yeah. And then the majority of the letters we received from the public, not all of them, but a good amount, a large percentage of them, requested that the new development have a separate HOA. And I believe DDC can speak to that. I think they're open to keeping it separate, but I'll have them speak to that when they come up. And then let me just make sure I touched on the conditions of approval. I needed to add one more condition of approval. Our attorney would like basically all these conditions of approval to be kind of summarized in one subdividers agreement instead of via conditions of approval. So we need to execute a subdividers agreement.
Can you explain how that works in terms of what, once Planning Commission gets ready to make their recommendation?
Yes, I'm not clear on that. So it's not number 10, it's that you're wanting all, explain it.
I would say before, prior to construction, commencing construction, they need to have executed a subdividers agreement.
Prior to approval, final plat.
Final plat, okay, final plat.
Prior to approval of the final plat.
Which, just to remind you guys of the process here, the preliminary plat and how we've set it up is the same as how we set it up with the Spring Meadows that's existing right now, phases 1 and 2, is They will, once they get preliminary plat approval, they can start construction, and they'll put in all the public improvements, so the road, sidewalk, anything that's considered public, and actually construct the streets, the utilities, electric. Our engineers and our own Public Works Department will sign off on it if it's per specifications and per standard practice. And then the final plat comes back to Planning Commission and to council. This does not go to council. This is it here. And then they can, if once it's approved, and obviously, the construction plans are approved. The construction plans go to the Ohio EPA also. So it's not just Choice One, but there's a lot of standards, utilities and stuff have to be reviewed by the state as well. And I think that's it.
Okay, then I guess we'll ask for DDC management to come up, and if you'd like to talk, and then we'll ask you lots of questions.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here, John Bills, on behalf of DDC Management, president of the company. Grateful to be here again. We were here probably 2 or 3 years ago with the original Spring Meadows, and I've been working on this one with staff, and then obviously through the annexation here for probably over a year now at this point, but we are excited. The partnership and working together on the first 2 phases, the original Spring Meadows, had gone very well. It went well for us, hopefully for the village as well, and for Fisher Homes. While it's not part of the application, the plan is Fisher will be continuing on into this section, and we'll be building in there as well. Of some of the things that have been brought up, or the questions that have gotten raised, or in the comments, the communications that came in, obviously I think one of the large concerns is about it being part of Spring Meadows officially as part of the HOA and we are open to doing this as a separate HOA for maintenance purposes. The way that this one will be set up, just for Planning Commission's knowledge, is there will be, assuming it's not part of the other one, there would be a master HOA association here that is the same as what we have in the other one. It'll be an HOA that takes care of the common space, takes care of the ponds, all of those things, the entryway. And then there will be, regardless of whether this was combined or not, there will be a sub-association that is for the condos. They'll have their own because they pay for additional services, like it could be trash, it will be plowing the roads, maintaining the roads, all of those things that come with it's like a little bit more, whatever, carefree living or whatever they call it, where some of those services are taken care of for you automatically. So there would be a sub-association, so they will still pay into the master association. There's still a charge because they're still paying for the ponds and the maintenance and the entryway and all of that. But then they will pay an additional fee to live within that section that is for maintenance of the condo, the roads, the snow removal, all of those things. So there will be 2 associations here. One is a sub-association of the master. From our perspective, it could be separated from the other one. Because of the way that structure is, my belief is it would probably lower the dues overall in the current community if it was added in, but it really makes no difference to us. We're more than happy if the current residents want it to be separated out. We'd be more than happy to just set up a new master association and then the sub-association for the condos. So we're agreeable to that if that's something that Planning Commission desires us
Can I
to do.
ask a question on this specific?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious, let's just say you set it up with 2 separate HOAs, and then downstream construction's completed, those 2 HOAs go to the residents and whatever. Are they able, if they want in the future, are they then able to combine the HOAs?
I'm going to say legally, yes, but I don't know the answer to that.
Okay, just
the
the
odds,
first
most likely, like once the HOA is set up, typically to do anything like major like that, it would require 75%, or it's like a high number of the people all have to agree to it. And I can just say from past experience, it's almost impossible to get 200
Okay.
people,
I was
75%
just
to
curious.
agree, even if it's clearly in the best interest or
Yeah.
whatever. But I believe legally it could take place, but
But
it's
it's
probably
unlikely.
unlikely.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah.
I don't know if we know that the majority of people, but all the letters, we don't know if the majority of the people in sections 1 and 2 want a separate HOA, but all the letters we've
That came
gotten
in,
have
yeah.
indicated that, yes, they do. So maybe some sort of survey can be done among them, so that it's, if they want it, that they can have then that.
Yeah.
I agree, because usually you hear from people who don't want something. You don't hear from people who like it the way it is. So,
And I would be open to that. We, through our HOA management company, they can send out surveys or whatever. We could send one out and just go off of what the results. It really makes, at the end of the day, it doesn't make too big a difference for us for how we set it up. This one has enough residents to maintain itself. The other one has enough with what will be in there to maintain it. So I don't think like economic viability really plays into it. I think either way could work.
Okay. And so we interrupted you, so go ahead and.
Yeah, a couple of the other things that came up, I've been working on this layout with Meg and the whole team, Choice One, all of staff. We're happy with what we're coming here. Fisher will be building the condos, and they're condos, but if you see the buildings, they have a few of examples. I know Sugar Creek has some of them, but think of like a townhome is kind of what they're 2-story. They look very good. Fisher does a nice job with them. But it is mostly meant for a little bit more of that carefree living for what
So
they're
they're
going.
townhouses.
There's 10 units together. They look to me like a townhome,
Okay,
like
so they have
an
a
upscale
2 floors.
townhome, but it has 2 floors, and there's 10 units in each building.
And do you know how many bedrooms?
I do not know that off the top. I believe 3 or 4, and it may be in different
Okay,
configurations.
okay.
But I don't know that for sure. As far as the other items that have come up, the active transportation and the intermodal, we understand the desire to have that. I've seen the work that's been done already with the bike paths or intermodal paths within the community. So we're open to that. Really, we're fine putting it in along Enon. We would be fine with that. We would also be fine with making a like sum donation towards the intermodal, just because I don't know what the plans are for Yellow Springs as far as right now. If we build it, it's just going to be a stretch of 10-foot walk that goes nowhere. I'm fine with that. I would be happy to put that in, but if it doesn't connect like on down Enon Road,
Yeah.
and then to the north right now, it doesn't go anywhere to the north within the village limits. So we're open to it, would be more than happy to put it in if that's the desire, or work with staff to come up with what the cost would be and put it towards the active community or active transportation.
Susan, later on, not right now, I would like to walk through these active transport items,
Okay,
but let's finish
okay.
purpose. Okay.
So, but open, we're agreeable to the comments, just was throwing out that other option if it better served the village.
Yeah.
We're fine with installing it ourselves. The other questions, I hadn't quite understood originally, Meg's, I do now, the comment that was on there about the parking. I would be agreeable to no on-street parking. My interpretation of the comment from the fire was the pinch point, like where it came together, which I agreed made perfect sense to have no parking at that pinch point so that a fire truck could get around. We're open to no parking everywhere, but it would, in the other areas where it's not a pinch point, where it is a loop, if there was room for parking on one side of the road or something, that would be my preference. But I just originally interpreted the comment as the pinch point, where you don't want it to be tight for a fire truck to get through or whatever. So would be open to discussing that one, but would prefer to just limit it to whatever, 200 foot each way of the intersection or whatever's agreeable by staff and that, but that we limit it within that area.
So while we're still on like these two things, the parking, is there a way that you can add 18 more spots into that?
I will work with our engineer to do it. I thought we had done it properly and had the right number of spots.
I
when
would
we had
like
done
that
it.
too, because I think particularly hearing 3 and 4 bedrooms, that I think that you need to have 2 spaces per unit.
It's my error, I'll just admit it, all right here. I thought there was that enough.
And I did too.
I usually
I
catch
was
those things
shocked when you
before
said that.
tonight.
I didn't realize it,
Yeah.
so.
And it looks like you could put it in there.
It looks like
because
there's
it looks
like a few
you've
more
got some
spots
spaces.
potentially
Yeah.
that we may be able to add it. I just would need to work with my engineer and then ultimately with Choice One to try to find some additional spots.
Okay.
We'll maximize it, what we can do there.
Okay.
I didn't realize it till right now, so.
Did the fire department say that they'd be able to turn around a fire truck in there? They thought that was okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
What, at the
I'm not going to
the
second guess them,
cul-de-sacs?
well, just at the ends, you know.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
If they're confident,
They worked with the turning radiuses. The other thing that I will note that is part of the evaluation that we did with the fire department, because they are 10 units buildings, these will be sprinklered, which does change some of the standards of how they evaluate these. But that is one key part, that they are sprinklered. Doesn't really matter
Oh,
for us
that
here.
does
but
help though, yeah. that's good to
It
know.
goes into the evaluation
Yeah.
of different things.
Yeah.
For
The length of
code,
distance from
the
hydrants,
length and all
yeah.
of that.
okay.
I was trying to think of any of the other comments that had come up, but I think that's all I can at least remember.
Okay.
I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Yes, well, I'm interested in knowing how many of the units are going to be affordable.
This is market-based. It's not any kind of government subsidized or anything like that. So it is market-based. One of the things that we worked with staff really, not just with this piece, but as we did the other one and the other 2 first phases, and we started looking at either, there's been a lot of conversation about trying to have affordable, trying to have some higher density areas. It's how we landed on this, where we wanted to continue out of the other subdivision, the current one, and kind of continue with the same, but then in the comprehensive plan, start working towards some higher density as it starts to progress out, which is where we landed on these condo units in
Yeah.
order to get that, to try to make them
And how-
more affordable.
So what will be the cost for them?
I don't have the final numbers from
Take a
Fisher
guess.
Homes.
Take a guess.
Not really, I mean, nothing's cheap today. Like, that's the reality of it.
How-
Affordable's a different, but I would guess in the 300s.
Okay.
Possibly.
So, because when
I'd
I
guess
ask for
300.
affordable, I know that you're looking at a market rate, but I think in our community, we would like, anytime there's new development done, we want some 10 to 15% of the units to be affordable to families that are at 80% or below of the AMI. And this seems like this would be a great one for you to do that.
So we don't sell the units. So like, that's the thing, we just do the development. We don't actually do the units. Like typically, I'm not gonna, we have different division of the company that has done some of that, and that's typically when you're like in apartment buildings and different things, which we don't do. These are all for sale units. To do that and to bring affordability down, there are things that come into discussion. I'll just throw numbers at the intermodal path along the front. It's $140,000 probably to put that in, some number like that. 100 to 125. It's important. It needs to go there, but you start tacking all of those things on, and it ultimately drives up the price
What-
of the houses.
What I'd like to point out, though, I believe there isn't a requirement.
Oh, no, we know there isn't.
Yeah, there isn't, so there's a limit to, we're not in a position to push it because that's,
But we are in a position
But that-
to ask.
to ask, yeah, but it can't be the basis for what our decision and whatever. And just a subtlety, it's multimodal.
Multimodal, sorry.
Multimodal paths, yeah.
I apologize.
Okay, you're close.
Are there any other things that you could negotiate to do some affordable units?
So what we've done in other areas, like I'm not asking for this here, but it's what we've done. I'm taking one through in a couple other communities that can't support what's that?
Sorry, I remember you telling me about this.
That can't support maybe the price point that Yellow Springs does here. And they want to have some lower cost housings, so they have done different public-private partnerships. And it does mean, in a way, the village can help subsidize it. It's through tax increment financing. There can be tax abatements that can be put in place. There's things as much as like you do have a unique circumstance here where you have your own electric company, but like you could somehow work with that probably even to have it installed, at cheaper or whatever. And all those things, one of the communities I'm working on right now, they asked me like, well, how much of a difference does this make? And at the end of the day, it probably, like where they put a TIF in place, it lowered the end cost to the homeowner by 15 to 20,000 is what I would guess at the end of the day, because I'm basically trying to get it down to hit a price point that they could bring that down and make it more affordable. It's not going to drop it from 300 to 200, unfortunately, but some of those things can help where the municipality, the developer partner to try to figure out a way to make it still viable.
What this question about price and all that, what I'm going to assume with these, multiplex units, the townhomes or whatever, I'm assuming in general, there'll be less square foot than the freestanding homes.
Yes, slightly less, yes.
They'll be slightly smaller, they won't have individual garages, and you have shared walls.
They are going to have, there's a
There's
number
garages.
that will have garages.
Yeah.
Oh, some of them will have
Yeah,
garages.
but there will be shared walls.
4 of the
Okay.
10 units have garages.
Oh, okay, 4 of the 10. But so the other 6 don't. So certainly with those, see, I'm just looking at it and my engineering mind is making me think, so they might cost roughly 3/4 of what the freestanding homes might be. And that might be does that sound about possible?
Although it's a ballpark figure.
Correct, because
It's 300,000.
I'm not the home seller.
That's not affordable.
As he pointed out, though, I just was reading yesterday, average homes in the United States right now are $400,000.
I think the one thing I like about it is it adds another price point that's
Yes.
different.
Yeah,
That
in fact,
More
it's a different
variety.
price point.
Yes,
You're
exactly.
right. And so there are people that can't afford the houses.
Yes.
That probably could afford the townhouses.
And they're still going to be very nice homes and
Yeah.
all of that, but it
Yeah.
is one of the things we discussed early on of just trying to have some variety,
Yeah.
some different price points than just a continuation of the current Spring Meadows, which is wonderful. I love that community, but to hit another price point as well, at least a little bit lower.
All right, public hearing time.
Okay, I do have another question, and I guess it has to do with choice one comes up, and this is something that was in a number of the letters. Could you have a second entrance off of Enon Road? Because that one entrance, when I looked at it, and I understand, and I'll ask choice one about it, but I look at the first 2 phases, and we've got 2 entrances going in for, 70, 90 houses? And then here we have at least double, and we only have 1 entrance.
Well, there is the second entrance through the other subdivision,
Yeah.
which is the difference. The other thing is the reality from a safety and a circulation standpoint, unless it connected on down to one of the other streets, it doesn't actually, it's still only going to be servicing the condos. Like, if there was an entrance, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it best, but call it up here in the top left side, unless there was a connection, it's still going to be just, anybody that wants to go left, it would only be the condos. It's really
Unless
only
you
going
brought
to
it down
service.
to that cul-de-sac.
And the point of the condos and doing it, and we want it to, not exclusive, but be separated from, it's private roads where we want it to have its own area within it, instead of the connection through is the reason for it. And we talked at length with staff about putting another, but nobody's probably going to turn in and go around the cul-de-sacs, the loops, in order to go out on, if you're already right here at the entrance. You would just go out. It didn't really change traffic patterns when we looked at the traffic study of how it would work.
This is something I wanted to talk about a little bit too in the notes.
Okay. And I had one other question, had to do about the playground. And I understand that in the first two phases, there is a playground there. But I think, Meg, in your notes, you said it was like half a mile from those. And so that seemed to me that if people have small children, that's quite a ways to go with a small child. I wondered if you could have a playground in some of the open space.
Another, or a second playground sort of on the
Yes.
north side somewhere?
Yes.
The north end of the figure eight? Nestled in there?
I would want to discuss that with Fisher, as far especially within the condo area, in like what their target demographic and like what, and whether or not a playground in that area makes sense. I wouldn't want to commit to that. I mean, we had talked about doing one. Our original, I think, plan was to do one in the open space down here.
And could you still do that?
And potentially, well, we were asked, I believe there was guidance that they thought the community garden. There was one that was wanted in the previous, so we were looking at a community garden here as an amenity instead for something for that. So we had switched out from doing a playground to doing like a community garden area in that area.
How much input does Fisher have in this? It looks like you've drawn in something that is a specific floor plan.
The condos it's drawn, this plan is drawn with their floor plan in mind on the condos. The rest are 50-foot lots, but the condos, it is their floor plan.
Okay.
I've got a different question.
Yeah.
Like I said, we can't force you to do this, but that means jobs. And locally, we have some very qualified contractors. We got electricians, we got plumbers. I would like to see if they could get a chance to get in some of this work. I mean, if it's a small percentage, now I'm pretty sure that'd probably go to Fisher, but I'd like to see that because that would be, one, helpful to the community, and two, it'd be helpful to some of our businesses that have been struggling lately.
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. Obviously,
And like the qualified ones, not everyone just walking up with a hammer.
Yeah. And I mean, unfortunately, most of that would go through Fisher.
Right.
But I'm sure they're looking for qualified subs.
Right, and if there's a process that could be mentioned, and we could relay it on to them, like how to get into this.
I'm sure they're open to it. They have, like any home builder, I'm sure they are.
That's one thing,
good subs.
anytime something gets built around here, because, we used to build our own stuff. That's why we're here. Our house looks so unique, because we used to be our own carpenters that built all these homes over the years.
Yeah.
Now we're moving in this kind of phase. Well, they feel like they're getting phased out, and one thing that makes them mad is they just don't feel like they get a shot at getting this work. So they're starting to leave too, and they have to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And if we keep them home working, I'd love to get that in there.
Yeah, agreed. That would be a good scenario.
Gavin, do you have any questions for John?
I don't think so. I mean, I wanted to follow up about the traffic study, and it sounds like we're going to talk to the Choice One folks, because I wasn't missing something, right? We just had the one page that said, generally it looks good, but we didn't see a full analysis, right? So I had a couple questions about that.
There's a huge analysis in the packet.
Well, I know there's a huge analysis from the developer, but
Yes.
there's not a whole huge analysis from Choice One. We just have
Yeah,
the-
there were, Choice One did provide like detailed comments to me. I did not include them in
Yeah.
the packet, that's
So I
accurate.
just wanted to follow up about that a little bit, and then you answered the HOA split question. I guess I assume we don't have to do that now. So this idea of doing a survey or getting some other input from other residents or having some kind of systematic way to say, hey, make sure that these residents aren't not representative of the full body.
Yeah.
But it sounds like this can be worked out. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And then we would just try to have closure on it at the final development plan. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we can, yeah.
Is that something that would go in the subdividers agreement, Nick?
Maybe, maybe not, depends on the survey that and make the determination, but it could certainly be something discussed at final plat, which will go through planning and to council.
We can just put it as a condition to check in at that point,
So I
basically.
guess the point is, we don't need to figure it out tonight. We're going to figure it out in the future.
But what we know is that they're agreeable if the majority or whatever it is percent of residents want a separate HOA, you're willing to do that.
Agreed.
Okay.
And
And,
so,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, it's okay. And then I'll just throw in my like sort of 2 cents that's related to the kind of affordability question now, which isn't a question for you. It's just I don't know when else to say it. So I think what we're bumping up against here is this dynamic that we have a comprehensive plan that sort of says, here's where we generally want to go, and then we have a Bowen analysis that says, here are the specific needs, but there's a gap between the two. And this is the project where we cross the line, essentially. So this is the project where we're going to have many more market rate units that are being developed than we had identified as needs.
Yes.
And the concern for the many of us that are particularly wondering about how to make the community more accessible from an affordability standpoint is that essentially we're making little to no headway on the lowest income, most affordable side of the equation, and we're making lots of headway on the market rate unit side of the equation. And so the concern is that our demographics will continue to shift in ways that are concerning. So just to name that, I think that's the dynamic, and so the functional reality is that the zoning code is the thing that has teeth, and the teeth are saying this is what's allowed.
Yes.
And so for the last 2 or 3 years, we've talked, since I've been on here, we bring up regularly, hey, maybe we should work on closing that gap of figuring out what is it that we actually want to see, and then therefore having more restriction to say this is what's necessary. And what obviously Susan and others are talking about is essentially the question around, should there be some inclusionary zoning standard or some sort of, hey, instead of, hey, would you please do 15% of units, it's saying you have to do it if you want to build. And we obviously haven't had the support for that at the council level. We've got a change that's coming at the council level. I think these things are worth bringing back up. And I'm definitely at the point where it's like, we've been talking about doing this for 2 or 3 years, and we haven't made any headway on more clarity on answering these questions. And that's not your fault, but it is collectively ours. And so just to name for folks, I think we're aware of that. The other piece is just that, this is part of a process of trying to have more units, which should bring down the cost overall. I say should just because, what we don't totally know about our market is just how much demand is there for essentially market rate or higher cost housing. I feel like anecdotally I have a sense that we're bumping up against some lines when I talk to residents in the community that feel like they've had a harder time selling their older homes because of the newer homes, but this is also while interest rates have been really high and while the economy has had other dynamics. So I don't think there's any exact sort of one-to-one scenario. So anyway, I know this isn't, we have laws and they're following the laws and we have to work within them, but I just wanted to say a little bit to acknowledge that there are dynamics here. The only other question that I had is about the TIF, which is just the idea of a TIF that came up. So my assumption is that it is in our best interest, essentially, as the village, to not have a TIF in this scenario because they're saying, we're going to build the roads and everything, so why would we use our money, essentially, to have them do that? Meaning, in the other projects where we're considering TIFs, it's basically where we're saying, let's make sure that those dollars can be used toward things that otherwise we may not have already negotiated or that we may end up bearing the cost of.
Could you explain to us what a TIF is?
Oh, boy.
Do you want me to do that, Gavin?
I mean, I could, but go for it, Amy.
So this is an interesting conversation. So TIF stands for tax increment financing.
Okay.
And the idea is that the value of land is what the value of land is today. Development happens, the value of land increases. The property owner will pay increased taxes on their land as it increases in value due to the development. If you place a TIF, and the entity that has the authority to do that is Village Council, if Village Council places a TIF on property, then that change in value from here to here, instead of it just being paid like property taxes to the county auditor, The property owner still pays the money, but it gets funneled into a different account. It's considered payments in lieu of taxes. And then that money accumulates over the life of the TIF, which could be, for example, 10 years. And then it can be used in different ways. You can get creative with how you use those TIF funds. You can either have the developer do something at the onset and then reimburse themselves from those funds, or the money could just stay with the village and be used for servicing the area. Usually, for example, if we were talking about building a turn lane at this point, TIF would be a great tool to be talking about, right? Because then that money could be used to do something like that, and come to an agreement between village and developer so that, that work can be done using those funds. So, yeah, I mean, Gavin has had a lot of conversations about TIFs in the last couple of months because Village Council has been tackling the topic quite a bit and will continue to do so in the coming meetings. And it's never been discussed here. To my knowledge, there's been no discussion at all of incentives on this property between village and developer. But I hope that answers the question
Okay,
as to what.
so could the TIF be used to ask them to bring down the costs of a certain number of their condominiums?
No, because TIF funds by Ohio statute can only be used in very specific ways.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
it has to, even using it to pay for example, police and fire services in the area is very restricted by statute. And it has to be carved out in a really unique way. Now, I'm not a public finance attorney. I work with public finance attorneys who do get in the details of all of this stuff. If we wanted to look into something like that, Susan, I think maybe there's other tools that we could be considering, I think, to achieve that end versus TIF.
I think, and I forgot your name, sorry.
John.
I think what John's point is that while we couldn't use the TIF dollars for lowering the cost, if we had TIF dollars so that their tax money basically paid for the roads or infrastructure, and therefore they didn't have to just fold those costs into the totality of the deal,
They could
then they
reduce-
could lower the cost.
Could lower the cost.
So we could go down this road, but the basic bottom line is the tools that he's sharing are the tools that we've been talking about. We've started, and I think we have a long way to go still, but this is why we're talking about these things.
Yes.
Both TIFs and tax abatements, to figure out how could they be used, and then to put systems into place so that they can only be used within pursuit of our goals, so that, I don't think anybody has vocalized a support, no offense, for, tax abatement or a CRA for a market rate, housing development. But if we wanted to incentivize, different forms of levels of affordability, then there would be different point systems, for example, that could be instituted, and the staff have brought us some drafts to begin talking about.
Okay.
So something that, I think that the affordability, when we talked about the Windsor development, because those were rentals, that, that made a lot of sense. And it seems like rentals are actually a lot more affordable because there's no down payment. If somebody were to buy some of these units, they could rent them out at a lower price. So if you had money somewhere, that could be a way to create some more affordable units.
That's what I was
I also
wondering
just
about.
want to lose sight of, I think that's all very accurate, just don't lose sight of the fact that the zoning code will need to be updated. Because
Yeah.
right now, their annexations get automatically RC, and they have rights established
Yeah.
through that.
Totally.
And that was,
And the only reason that I think all of us are on our soapbox a little bit is because we have collectively lost sight, we haven't lost sight of the fact that the zoning code is what the zoning code is. And that's why we're bringing it up, is because that we've been bringing it up for years, and we haven't made any adjustments the way that many of us would like to see adjustments made.
And you're here in the middle. Get to it.
so I guess at this point,
Conveniently standing right there.
are we done with John and are we waiting for Brad to come up?
Be gone? No.
Any other questions for John?
Well, yeah, I wanted to,
We haven't done a public hearing yet either, just to.
Yeah,
point
we
that
haven't
out.
had a public hearing, but do you have any more questions for John?
I have questions. Yeah, I
Okay,
have
go
discussion. But actually, this whole, what I did want to mention, just this discussion about affordable housing, what seems to be the reality too is, from what I'm aware, virtually all low-cost housing needs some sort of subsidy somewhere. you know?
Well, I think that's an oversimplification, but yeah.
Let's deal with our questions.
Yeah,
for John
okay.
right now, please.
But, so the stuff I was looking at and thinking about, you know, the one thing with the traffic, I noticed too, you know, having the one exit that's sort of on the northwest, I'm assuming it got put in that corner, because in the southwest corner, you would maybe be too close to exits of other operations that were nearby. Seems like that's the safest, is to keep it further away. And, yeah, so that was my observation. The problem with having a second exit point nearby is it with the layout here, it becomes sort of redundant and not as effective as if you put another exit in another spot. There's already a number of developments in town that, I actually did a study on this back when there was a development going on the south side of town. Omar Circle has 45 homes, about one exit, and there's hardly ever any traffic through there. Fair Acres on the north side is 75 homes, there's 2 exit points, and there's also hardly any traffic through there. I think there's, you know, whatever, this is what it is. But the one thing I was wondering is this private roads, it's just something I'm not familiar with. Would anyone here, would Meg or happen to know, are there any other private roads in town?
Well, so
Yeah.
our homeowners association has the, you know, the road is the village and then the alleys are private. So the homeowners association basically does the same thing they have to here. They have to deal with the plowing and the maintenance
Yeah, yeah.
of something that, you know, the village
Yeah.
doesn't take care of.
But an alley's a little different than a road, but that's besides, I was just wondering, it
I'm
seems
not
sort of
sure.
interesting.
I'd have to look.
Well, the backside of
Okay.
Well,
the
how about the,
Glen over there off with the Woodrow,
Glen Cottages?
yes.
and
When we got that one,
The,
that's a private road. That way behind it was only
Partially.
allowed when they came to get it. They get to their
Park
parking lot.
Meadows?
No.
Park Meadows, I think
Yeah.
that has private roads.
Yeah,
Okay.
they just repaved that.
So it hasn't been done.
Okay, just curious.
It
Okay,
just means they gotta take care of themselves because it doesn't hit the requirements of being an actual road that
Okay.
Yeah.
we would take care of.
so,
Anything else?
yeah, so what I did want to highlight is, and I think you're okay with any of these, is the various suggestions that came out of active transport, that there's, going up from Iris Road, there's a sidewalk that is between lots 63 and 64 and 78 and 80.
Cuts up to the, yeah.
Make that wider so that it's a better multi-use path would be beneficial for bike and pedestrian traffic. But then the southwest corner, which is on the upper left of the drawing here, I think it's really important to somewhere to snake in through there, also a multimodal path going to East Enon Road, because that's sort of the obvious flow. You got to look at it sideways, but realistically, everything people in town that are going to go to stuff in town are going to want to go that way, and in particular, the middle school and high school is that direction. You're going to have a whole cluster of school-age kids here, and believe me, a 12-year-old on a bicycle will figure out how to cut through there, even if there isn't a formal way to cut through. And you want to have it formal. You don't want all the kids to have to go in the wrong direction to get around to a sidewalk and get back. So I think it's covered in the letter here that I think that's rather important to have that multimodal path. You'd have to figure it out. It's in the vicinity of where you're going to have some dumpsters and stuff.
Correct, that's the only thing, I haven't got to look at it in
Yeah.
detail in the engineering level or
Yeah.
whatever. We'd have to just confirm
But-
the space where there's the wide, or there's already a sidewalk down on the other one.
Yeah.
I don't think that'll be too big a deal
Yeah.
to widen there.
I'm looking at that sidewalk. That sidewalk is sort of going through a right-of-way of some sort, and the southwest corner, there's also a right-of-way of some sort there that's nominally the size of the other one that I would think you'd be able to slip in the multimodal path without too much trouble. And, yeah, and I think, your offer, your suggestion, as you pointed out, in addition to the length of sidewalk on East Enon, it then needs to connect to the intersection. And
right now,
I'm
it
sure
just
the
won't go
village would,
anywhere.
I think the village would be happy to talk to you guys if you wanted to help contribute to the cost of connecting
Is
that.
the piece of land next to it even in the village? That didn't get annexed, did it?
No.
So that's the township.
Well, that little piece, you'd have to get an easement, that little piece of, there's a little sliver that goes out to the cell tower.
Yeah.
There's about 2.5 acres, I think.
Pardon?
Yeah, what are you asking about? If they,
To connect the
You
path.
talking about the access
yeah, that
road?
would have to be a future
Main
effort.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
yeah.
would have
The access
to,
road that runs back there already, Amy? Is that what
yeah.
we're talking about? Okay.
Yeah, that's outside the scope of this, but
Yeah.
but he's interested in being involved, so.
Well, to clarify what I was saying,
He's like, whoa, hold up now.
well, what I was saying is, we're willing to build it along our frontage as the request is.
Yeah.
But knowing that it doesn't go anywhere, like it's just going to be whatever.
But we assume it's eventually going to go
And
somewhere.
that
Yeah.
was my only point, was if that
Yeah,
money
yeah.
could be better spent for other bike path, multimodal, instead of it being built here, an equivalent amount of money being given
Well,
to build it.
I think it's, oh, I see, you're talking about instead of,
And yes,
as
that's what I
opposed to in
if it-
addition
If it
to.
was in better use
Yeah.
for the village.
Yeah, well, in reality, you really would like to have it all along there, because also people will exit out, pedestrian and bicyclers along that road and want that multimodal path, but it's a separate
Okay,
conversation, a separate time.
great. Well, John, thank you very much.
That's what I got.
Then I think, Brad, we'd like you to come up and maybe we have some questions for you.
Okay, remember, he's on our side. Just kidding.
So I'm Brad Warnock with Choice One Engineering. We reviewed everything that they submitted on behalf of the village. Sounds like there's a lot of questions about the traffic. So we reviewed the traffic impact study that they submitted, and based on the level of service at the intersections, not just that one, but the two that were in the previous phase, another entrance was not warranted. And actually, if we put another one on East Enon, it probably decreases the level of service, because you have two access points that are very close together, and that creates more congestion on East Enon than necessary.
Can you answer a question about the traffic study? So it was just on one day, right? The counting of the traffic that the traffic study's based on? Because that's what
no.
that's what the thing shows. It shows that the dates were, it says here in the beginning, it says Tuesday, the 26th of August, but the actual data that's in the back is actually from the Wednesday after that. And I'm just wondering whether that's like normal for a traffic study to just take the counts of the cars turning just on one
For
day.
one day.
They should have had cameras set up for an extended period of time, and that was when the data was recorded.
Well, it just says turning movement counts were conducted blah, 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 on Tuesday, August 26th, between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. at the following intersections. That's what it says in there. But the actual data is not from that day, it's from the next day. So I'm just wondering, because there's a lot of stuff that depends on this, and I'm just wondering, whether that's normal to do traffic studies just on one day.
For specific movements, it can be done in one day, yes.
Okay.
So you're comfortable with that? Because then, just a moment ago, you had said normally they're done for an extended period.
To come up with the number of cars that are traveling on East Enon. In this case, there's no traffic leaving this land's not developed, right?
That's
So all of the trips are projected anyway, right? Like, we don't know, like, that's all a projection that's calculated through ODOT's process, to come up with the number of trips that will be coming out of this development. That's then what's driving the study, right? Not current day numbers, because the current day numbers are not what the numbers will be after this development goes in.
Can you point what page that on again? Where it says Monday? Is it just one specific
It says here, this is the page 9 of 37.
9? Okay, thank you.
But the actual data that was provided from that company was, it's not a big deal, but it makes me wonder
Yeah.
how thorough all this has been reviewed.
Okay, existing traffic volumes.
Could you just talk for a couple minutes? Like, all we saw was like one page that said, ostensibly, we think it's okay. That's, I think, what the takeaway was, but it wasn't even clear on the one page. So could you just talk with us a little bit? Like, you understand what's going on, right?
Yeah.
They do a study. We're all kind of checking, hey, we've got a bunch of neighbors that are saying, hey, there's some questions. We're trying to get a sense of, how this works. So you've been talking to her a bunch, but just work with us a little bit. Talk to us. What did you see?
So what we're seeing is that there's also 2 access points on the other end of this development, right? Like, this needs to be treated as one whole development. So you have a continuation through the development, you have three access points on that. And then what they provided is a trip generation for each of those access points. And one of the big comments we had was to provide the trip generation for the other 2 access points that are in the previous phase, so that we can ensure that distributed amongst those 3 access points, no one of them reaches a level service of D, I believe is what we're looking for. Level C is acceptable, level B is ideal. Obviously, A would be as if it was like a continuous left or right turn out of the development. So what we're taking is their projected trips and verifying that the level of service at each of those access points does not exceed the ODOT specified level of service.
Okay, and so you understand why we're asking when there's any inconsistencies or any, we're just trying to understand.
Yeah.
So what you're basically, from our perspective, so I don't pretend to be an expert on this stuff. So I'm trusting that staff has said, okay, we're working with you, and that you've looked over all their stuff, and what you're all saying is that, hey, we don't anticipate there being notable traffic issues, or really any traffic issues. You're saying that you think, hey, we've checked this out, we've double-checked, and then obviously you're also covering not just the traffic, but also other questions around engineering.
Yeah.
But on the traffic component, the experts that we hire as a village are saying they've checked the experts that the developers hired, and that it works out. And then, so my only point would just be for our staff and for the folks that we work with, that double checking all of your, making sure everything adds up helps us to make sure that we know that there's a thoughtful process been handled.
So your other point, there's a website on ODOT's database that's called TIMS, and you can go in and you can see what the traffic count segments are on each of these roads. So you can see the total number of cars that have been counted over since I think they do it 2017, 2019, 2021, 2020. They do it every other year. So there are counts for the number of cars that are traveling on each of these roads that are also taken into that consideration.
Okay.
So that's why the turning movement itself,
Okay, not such an important.
not as much of an important issue.
I just got, so this page here, just sort of an interesting, I just want to explain this. So this says 87 cars, that's what it sounds like it's saying.
What
is
page? What page number?
This is 34 or 37. So does that mean that there's going to be, this is the 95th percentile backup at the light, I guess, and it says that, does that mean that could be an 87 car queue there at some percentage of the time? Or am I, because I got to be reading that wrong. Does that mean 87 cars?
At the entirety of the intersection, but not at any one given time, no.
Okay, so throughout the day.
No, is that through an hour first?
It's
Throughout an hour.
AM
It's
peak
a-
hours, so we, 7 to 9?
Within
an hour,
there would be 87 cars that could travel through that intersection.
95th percentile queue length. So is a queue length going through, or is that the queue that's the number of cars that are backed up at the light?
It's not the number of cars back.
Okay, all right, thank you. Because I was worried about that.
That would be
seemed-
weird if
That
there's
seems like a
97.
street fair day.
Not easy. There's nowhere in Yellow Springs they could have 87 cars backed up at one time and still
All
function.
right, that's all. I'm just.
Pick up and drop off, man.
I guess maybe at the school, in front of the school.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions for Brad? I do have a question about, and I guess this is about the drainage. Because I saw in some of the letters from people from Phase 1 and 2 that they're having problems with water in the basements. And so they're concerned about, for the developing Phase 3 and 4.
Okay. I guess,
So is
what's
water in the
the water in the
basement?
basement coming from, I guess, would be the first question, I mean, could it potentially be drainage? I guess. Most of the time, though, the site grading itself is all coming out to the road and draining to appropriate swales. That's the portion of it we look at. We're not necessarily looking at, like, what kind of drainage tiles they put around the outside of their house, if they put any kind of perforated tiles around their basements, or they have.
So, but like the soil drainage, that doesn't play into this? So like all of these are C for the soil, for all that stuff in there are all C.
That's for the runoff coefficient. So
Runoff, okay. So that has nothing to do with
That's based on, yeah. There's
people
certain
getting water
zones-
in their basement?
No, that's not, groundwater is not something that we review. We're not geotechnical experts.
You're looking at
We're
surface
looking at
water.
the site grading of the final grading of the site, and we ensure that everything that they are installing is draining to the appropriate swales and to the appropriate, like to the roadway, and then making its way down to the pond.
Okay, good, thank you.
So then who would look into that?
John?
Yeah, no, I mean, it is, so that is, it's groundwater. It's the water that's under the ground. We only really deal with the surface. And so it depends on the site. There are sites that just have high groundwater. My community I live in, I've got 2 sump pumps and they run every day, even in the summer. I've got high groundwater. They didn't do anything wrong in the design of the stormwater or anything there. And I'm just gonna guess Yellow Springs name probably originally came because there is springs underground and there is areas where there's high groundwater. And the weird thing about those, if it is underground springs, you can go 10 houses down and somebody not have water and like filling up in their basement, and you go over just a little bit and you do. It's taken into consideration by the builder is the short answer. Like any of the houses that they put in, they would put sump pumps in, but obviously, if you have high groundwater and that sump pump has to run and that, you run the risk of it, going out. You need to check it routinely, put a battery backup, all of those things. But a basement is basically a swimming pool in the ground. You have to find a way. If you're in high groundwater, you have to find ways to get that water out of there, and a sump pump is what's used to do it.
Okay. Okay, thank you. And are these houses you're going to be building, will those have basements?
It's a mixture. Some will and some won't.
Okay.
And the Fisher's taken that into consideration as they've been looking at which houses they'll put basements on and not.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else for Brad? Okay, thank you, Brad.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think that we're at the point where we're ready for our public hearing. And so people are going to be given 2 minutes. So anybody who wants to come forward, tell us your name and just confirm that you've been sworn in. Go ahead, and just come up as you're ready.
You want to go first? Okay. 2 minutes, okay. Eric Clark, I live in the village. I have been sworn in. Thank you, Judy. I will address a couple of these things. The reason I believe that it's a good idea to have 2 entrances here is that if anybody has been out to phases 1 and 2, you would see that Kenneth Hamilton is really not designed to have an additional possible 100 cars going in and out. And also the entrance on Wright Street was built as it's 1 lane. There's no way to get multiple cars in and out of there. So that was just a big concern of ours. The other is that there is no sidewalk access to the multi-use path on Dayton Street. So we have all these houses built, we've got beautiful sidewalks, and then boom, right at the model home, that's over. Same thing coming down Kenneth Hamilton towards Dayton Street. The sidewalk does not continue all the way, and so this means that the kids are walking in the street, and we're going to have those kids walking in the street as a not-so-safe routes to school if we're going to let a lot of these cars exit onto Iris instead of kind of consciously or subconsciously making them go out onto Enon. So that was just a comment I wanted to make. The other thing I wanted to mention here, just because we were talking about the affordable housing, the DDC really does not have anything to do with the cost of the housing at all. That is Fisher Homes. They should have been here. And so when we talk about the affordable housing, I think that's when we get into those condos. And I'm speaking only anecdotally because I've been following Fisher Homes for quite a while. And the condos that are on New Germany Trebein at Beaver Valley, the new ones that were put in, I'm guessing these are going to be very similar to those, just in the number of units that are going to be in each condo pack. And those, some of them start around 200,000, go up to 250. So I just thought I'd address that.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
I had more, but I'll take the 2 minutes.
Okay, next.
Just while he's coming up, just to respond quickly, we have talked a little bit at council and with planning department about this, essentially these gaps in infrastructure, like the sidewalks dynamic. It's a challenge right now. We have places where it's not in anybody's bill to figure out how to connect the dots, and so we're trying to figure out if there's a way to improve that.
Sidewalks and crosswalks.
Okay, I'm sorry we interrupted you.
Yeah, my name is Guy Glass, part of the Fisher Homes over here. But I want to talk about Kenneth Hamilton. People really need to look on that north end where it connects with Dayton Street. It's awful. I mean, on trash night, it's cans all over the place, room for one car going down the street. There's no sidewalks, and it's a secondary road if you look at it. When you come into our development, the road's wider and we have sidewalks. They have nothing on that side. And all these people are going to connect up and go through that to get to Dayton Street. So either turn lanes, I don't know what the story is for that, but they need to do something with that. And the other thing is that they really do need to watch the development. I have a water problem in my backyard. Fisher Homes does nothing about it. There's standing water in my backyard anytime there's a large rain. And it's been going on since I've lived there. It's ruined my grass over there. I've called, everything. They don't do anything about it. So I just make sure the drainage is right, to do it right the first time. That's my, take on that. So other than that, that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
Mike Reynolds, I was sworn in. I'm a resident of Spring Meadows. Thank you for providing us a great neighborhood, which is why we want to have a separate neighborhood association, because we're meeting in people's backyards in the evenings, Friday nights. We're forming a relationship. Our neighborhood is smaller and about the same size as a regular Yellow Springs neighborhood, whereas this development is so much larger, and with condos, it's just a different feel. We would never be able to know the names of everyone in the other side, although I could know all the names in my neighborhood, and I know most of them. So I think you would find, when you do a survey, that you'll have a vast majority of the people in the neighborhood. So my hope would be, and I don't know if this is too much to ask, that the new Phase 3 and Phase 4 would have a different neighborhood name. So Spring Meadows would be Spring Meadows with our own neighborhood association, and then the new development would have a separate identity and a separate name. So currently, we don't have really control over the neighborhood association until all the homes are built, so 99 homes. The developer, has right of refusal on anything that we want to do on our own lots. If it's not detached, then it means that we'd have to wait until Phase 3 and Phase 4 is all completed before we could have our own board and our own say within the neighborhood association. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So my recommendation would be to have a separate neighborhood association and a separate name for the new neighborhood, although I have no quarrel with the developer developing as nice a neighborhood there as he has for us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, I've been sworn in. My name is Tammy Fox, and I live at 145 Kenneth Hamilton in Spring Meadows. And I would say ditto to everything that Mr. Reynolds said. I agree with all of that. And then additionally, I'd like to add, I would like you to consider and advocate for a crosswalk from Kenneth Hamilton across Dayton Street to the multimodal path. With, more development and more people probably walking and trying to get to that multimodal path right there, it would be nice to, instead of, right now, we just look both ways and run, along with the deer, across the street to try to get to the multimodal path. So even if you determine a stoplight's not feasible, at least a nice crosswalk with some flashing, the flashing lights and the signs so that we could safely cross there. And that's all.
Great, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Maddie Fitch, and I've been sworn in. I live at 4449 East Enon Road, so a little further down the road from where this development is. I have 3 points that I would like to make. One is just to voice my support for Susan and Gavin, what you were saying about the priority of affordable housing, and I understand the limitations of the zoning code, but just I would support trying to close the gaps that you were talking about, trying to figure out the zoning code that could allow for more affordable housing to be required in developments. In terms of traffic, I would encourage people to consider the speed limit on East Enon. Living on East Enon, cars go very, very fast, sort of regardless of what the posted speed limit is. And so if we're going to have many more families, many more children, thinking about the safety of those kids. We have 2 families where I live and then across the road, and there are kids and ducks and chickens and dogs, and we are always afraid for the safety of those inhabitants. And so that might be working with the township. I'm not sure about that. But then also in terms of the multimodal path, would there be any possibility of extending it out to the other families who live further up on East Enon? So thank you very much.
Thank you.
How do you feel about the speed bumps on North Fairfield? No.
I wish they were more visible.
Wish they were more, I'm with you on that. Wish they were more visible, but
Even at 25.
Yeah, I would love to have speed bumps. Speed bumps on East Enon.
Sorry.
We're not
Okay.
supposed to be asking.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, next.
It's just, respecting there are only 2 minutes to talk, I put
And your name,
the extra
please?
thoughts on handouts. Yes, my name's Rick Sanders, lived on East Enon. So DDC calls for 190 units, which is, please bear in mind, twice the size of the Spring Meadows, which is not complete, still being developed. Although 400 vehicles are projected on these 28 acres, a little more than twice the number of units, there will be a single exit, as we've discussed already quite a bit. It is obvious from the map that all of the 120 people in the multi-units and many of the people in the single are going to leave out that exit. It is not realistic to think anything else, although the traffic study, among its many inconsistent and unbelievable numbers, says otherwise. It's just not a plausible study. And the conclusion of minimal impact on traffic is just not plausible to me. Not an expert, but it does not make sense. The numbers do not look right. And we have specifics about the report on there. The other single exit developments, as Gary mentioned, are much smaller than the 190. DDC, I know it's definitely not probably a good idea to badmouth DDC. We've had a lot of contacts with them, and their one answer to anything we've brought up is no, including that some of our land is actually theirs. We wanted to talk to them about that, and we got a letter from a lawyer, which was not pleasant. More about that in the handout. The comprehensive land use plans, I also listed the 8 items. Oh, my God, sorry. Please see that. They are all inaccurate. The development exceeds the requirement, the suggested Bowen amount by 130 homes. And I do ask that you consider actual housing needs, affordability, appeal to buyers, will they buy it, neighborhood impact, and impact on many aspects of the village, including its struggling utilities. And if this leads to rental, that does not make my heart soar, the idea that rentals would come from this. Are there measures, is this going to be considered in advance? Thanks for letting me go over.
Thank you. Okay, next. Anyone else? Going once, going twice? Okay, we're going to close the public hearing. Other comments, questions that we have? I guess my question maybe for Gavin is, because I'm really stuck on this affordability, is because I know this is the first approval, the preliminary plat. Can council work on something and then talk with Fisher about, somehow a subsidy to reduce prices to make it affordable to people 80% or below the AMI? I mean, I don't care how many units, it would be nice if there were some. I really don't like us having a new development with this many and having no affordable units. We're making neighborhoods, one neighborhood that has affordable units, another neighborhood that has none. I don't think that's healthy for our community. Gavin, can you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the short answer is it's not like a maybe, it's not impossible. As one of the 2 council members that's continuing on to the next council, I made a list the other night of all the issues that have come up this year that are unresolved. It's a pretty long list.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of stuff on there that I didn't really want to do in the first place. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that I'd like to do that is on the list. So I'm super hesitant to say, yes, we definitely can.
Yeah.
The other big dynamic that I think everybody should be aware of in this space is that I think we all know that Meg is leaving, and so we're likely going to have a capacity question and challenge. So I definitely take your question seriously, Susan, and I think it's definitely on the list of things to consider. The other thing that I think I'll follow up with Meg afterwards and maybe with Amy is just sort of how the timeline might work, because I think the prospect and like the legality, I guess, like sort of what the prospect is of having something happen between, like in that window, I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'd like you to work on it. That's why I'm asking.
I know that you want me to work on it. I'm well aware of that.
Okay. I would like to, I know we have recommendations, and I guess I want to make the comment that we have discussed it among ourselves, but I don't know if we've told everybody. Because way the property is annexed, it comes in as a C, which means that what they're proposing to do, we don't have any control to change that. What they're doing is within the code. And we cannot then say to them, no, you can't do that. And we can't force them to do affordable units. That's something I wish that we had, but we can't. So we're asking these questions. And so, I feel quite frustrated. I feel like I don't have, very much anything I can do. We ask them certain things, they're reasonable, but it doesn't mean that that's going to happen. I wonder, though, if we could include in our conditions of approval of asking for them to do a survey of phase 1 and 2, and then based upon that they would do a separate HOA for those 2 phases if the majority of people want them. Is that something we can do?
Yeah, I would ask Amy if she's comfortable.
Amy?
If the applicant seems open to that, so
Okay.
if the
Okay.
applicant's open to a condition, have at it.
I'm sorry.
She
say-
said if the applicant was agreeable to it, which they said they were,
Are you?
so.
I am. I'm open to doing it.
Okay.
And we'll work with our management company to do it. At the end of the day, I'll be honest, I'm going to make some people mad and some people happy. I don't know how we monitor the condition and whether or not, but I'm willing to send out the survey and go with
Okay.
majority.
Okay. And maybe the people here who want it, and if they think the majority of people there do, then get your neighbors to make sure that they fill out the survey and get it in.
So just to clarify, because Meg, you had said that there needs to be a subdivider's agreement rather than the conditions of approval. Are you still passing conditions of approval, and then
Yes.
those are worked into the subdivider's agreement?
No, the subdivider's agreement will make reference to this approval. The subdivider's agreement is more focused on the fact that DDC will be installing the infrastructure and then transferring that to the village. That's really the nuts and bolts of the subdivider's agreement, has to do with the infrastructure development and transfer.
Sorry, Judy.
It's okay, but no, I wanted to get it clear before somebody makes a motion.
So we're still doing all of the other conditions, and then the subdivisions, and then the survey.
Yeah, I would like to modify number 8, where it says provide signage along private drive, and add after private drive, at the pinch point and 200 feet in each direction. Okay.
Say that again, provide signage along private drive.
Yeah. And then insert at the pinch point, comma, 200 feet in each direction from the pinch point, I guess.
200 feet
Yeah.
in each direction.
And the parking space number,
Yeah.
we're just.
We want to increase
gonna-
that to 240.
Okay, that's going to be a condition?
Yeah, I think we can just put another condition that says, ensure 240 off-street parking spaces.
Okay. Ensure 240 parking spaces for the
Multifamily.
multifamily.
May I ask a clarifying question on that? Just because I haven't looked at the plans yet, if they can't fit or whatever, can I ask for an exception, or will I discuss it when I come back? Or how does that work if it gets written in as a condition now?
You'll probably have to go to the board of zoning appeals.
What do you think, Amy? Amy's thinking.
I would advise against making the condition so black and white. And I would ask for, at this point, at preliminary, for the developer to get as close to that number as possible.
Okay.
And we'll work with you. Hopefully we can fit them.
Yeah, yeah.
I just don't know with not having a chance.
So we would say ensure 240 spaces or as close as they can.
Ensure as close to 240 off-street parking spaces as possible. Because, yeah, we got it.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
And then you've got the prior to approval of final plat, execute subdivider agreement as an additional?
Yes.
That's the,
Yes, so we actually now have, I think,
10.
12.
I got 10.
Well, there were 9, then the 10, the subdivision, then we're asking about the survey.
Okay, so the subdivider's agreement just needs modified, because there are 2 different versions. So
Okay.
some people had
So you
a
want us
9
to
and
re-
some didn't. She doesn't have the 9, you do.
She wanted us to.
So that just needs prior to final plot approval.
So this 9 and 10 are the same thing?
Yeah, on your sheet.
On my
yeah.
sheet,
Mhm.
okay. Okay, and so then that's
Yeah.
10, so they're 11.
Yeah, your number. Judy needs to have the right numbers.
Yeah.
So that is right, that's right, yep. That is 9, yep.
And 10 is ensure the off-street parking? Yeah.
And then I guess,
So,
and I don't want to delay this, but I guess I do want to respond to, I'm concerned about the Kenneth Hamilton Way, that it's so narrow. Is that something that the village should be looking at?
I think we are. Our Public Works Department is aware of it. I don't think we can require anything as part of this
No.
approval, but
As part of
it's
this.
definitely on our radar. And Johnny's already been, looking at putting in a crosswalk.
And the crosswalk was the other thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess,
And Active Transportation's also heavily been talking about it.
yeah, and after the meeting, I'll talk to you and try to figure out, I'll try to figure out if it's in the updated active transport
Plan, but it should be.
It ought to be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, then I guess where the point would somebody like to make the motion of all of the conditions with the 2 additional ones we have, with the modification of the subdivision agreement and then the one on the survey and then about the parking spaces?
I'll make a motion to what you said. I'm not sure what you just said.
What survey? Oh,
Yeah, about
the
modification.
survey, okay.
Survey phases 1 and 2 about the
That's
separate
10.
HOA.
That's,
That would be number 10. And then 11 was about the parking spaces.
okay, so she needs,
So maybe just ask that DDC engage with phases 1 and 2 to gather information regarding need for separate HOA. I mean,
That would be nice, okay.
something like that, because
That'd be
instead of
fine.
being.
however
Yeah.
they do it.
So I'm out of information. Is there a consideration for a name change for the new 3 and 4? Or is that something that we would
Did we
take to
answer,
council?
did we close the public hearing?
I have,
I think we closed.
yes, we did close the public hearing.
I'm sorry.
But is,
I don't, who sets the names?
That's up to them. We don't care what the name is.
so it's
It's how
really,
they market it. and-
is it up to John?
I would need to have a discussion.
Great, I like
The-
Oscar Hill Estate. We'll go back.
It's got a nice ring to it.
I think so.
So, Meg, are you saying that's not something we have any,
No, that's correct.
Purview
Sorry.
over.
Yeah, that's not anything that we have purview over.
catch that? We don't,
I understand, thank you.
I mean, you started, so I mean.
Okay, well, we have a motion on the floor, and did we get a second for it?
Do we have, we
I'll
don't,
second.
wait, do we actually have a motion on that?
Yeah, I can make a motion.
Scott made it.
With a motion to approve?
Yeah, I did not get that motion, and I did
Can you
not get the
restate it?
conditions, so
Yeah,
I
I
get.
want a motion to approve of what is now with everything that even the
With the
addition of
conditions
the.
identified.
Conditions that are identified, yeah. There we go.
So there are 11 conditions.
Yeah.
So you want to just summarize, so that we see what the original 8 are, and then what are the ones?
And then we have the, prior to approval of the final plat that needs to be, execute the subdivision agreement.
Yeah.
And then Judy had a good way of saying that they would engage with phase 1 and 2 about the separate HOA. And then we have to ensure 240 parking spaces, or as close as they can come to that, for the multifamily units.
Okay.
Okay, so did we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay, then I think we're ready for a vote.
All right, Zaremski,
Yes.
Green,
Yes.
Osterholm,
Yes.
DeVore Leonard,
yes.
Stiles.
Yes,
Thank you.
okay.
I'd like to thank Meg and Judy for doing such a good job on relatively short, you did some, Judy.
Absolutely.
On relatively short notice, getting a lot of information together on this. Thank you.
And since this is our last meeting that we have, that Meg is going to be with, I think I want to thank you for
Oh, thanks.
all of the work you've done, and you've just been a delight to be here with us and answer our questions, and
They are.
very supportive of the
They're doing
village.
it, oh no,
Thank you.
yeah, don't make her cry.
I know, I'm gonna cry.
We
Don't
try
make
and
her
make you
cry.
cry.
No.
Yeah.
We're gonna make crime better today? Really?
Yeah, no, I can't. I'm not crying.
I'm gonna miss
I'm gonna
trying
miss
to
you
crack
guys.
you up
I
in
really
these
am.
meetings. I always
It's-
look down over my side.
That was
'cause
fun.
it's
I
always
found
like
that fun. As painful as it was for you guys, I'm sure.
My audience won. No, Meg, I would like to thank you because I didn't know how it was gonna be like after we lost Denise and then kind of way we're doing things, but you jumped in and I really meant when I sent you that message. You really hit the ground running and your shoes gonna be hard to fill.
Thank you.
Because you did a lot above and beyond, and I love the fact I can call you at times with questions and you get back with me, and, no, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And you just have a real professionalism, which has been wonderful to have in the office.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to cry.
I promised Judy I wouldn't cry. She said there's no crying.
There's no crying in planning commission.
Yeah, right.
Do we have any old business to discuss? Any new business?
No, I don't think so.
You know, and then agenda planning, do we have anything? One thing I'm going to mention is because this sort of case brought it up to me, is that this group, we changed the zoning code. We used to bring properties in as B. And we may want to reconsider, you know, we did it as C because we thought, okay, this will attract more development. We were wanting to attract development. But I feel like we made a mistake because we have no negotiation there. I mean, it's something for us to think about. We have an unintended consequence that now someone comes in and we don't have anything to negotiate to say, we want to have affordable units. We're willing to do this and that if you.
But you could still, however you set up an affordable unit requirement, it can apply to any zoning.
Yeah, but
So,
all I'm saying-
folks, you might want to add that for your
We can put it
next
up there.
meeting.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
It's just we've never been able
Discussion
to
topic, because
pass the council, is what I'm saying.
Right now,
This is why it's
not on the agenda.
To change it to C, if there was an effort to back off on that, I can think of one person in particular who would write a lot of,
Oh, there would be one person, but that's okay.
yeah, there'd be other people. But,
I guess if we don't have anything else then, and we don't have any plans for December, or you don't know or care.
Yeah.
No or care. I like that.
Yeah.
Nor does she care.
I guess we're ready to adjourn. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.